Hello and welcome to the Camo Grind, a series where I analyze every weapon in Advanced Warfare to help you complete every camo challenge by giving specific strategies, loadouts, and more, including ranking every weapon variant in order of usefulness based on several factors to give you an idea of what you should use and what you should redeem. I don't, however, just make this stuff up. My advice and opinions are based on thorough testing, in-game coded stats, and of course my own experiences in using these weapons and weapon variants, of which I own many, to complete every marksman challenge and earn every royalty camo. Today's episode is on the AMR9 5-round burst submachine gun, another one of Advanced Warfare's pretty unique weapons. I don't think we've ever had a 5-round burst weapon before in Call of Duty, and the fact that it's an SMG is even weirder. Let's waste no time though and take a look at the variants. I put tons of research into the ranking, but remember, these are just opinions. You're more than welcome to debate the order with me. In first, I have the AMR9 Shorty, another one of those simple enlisted variants that just has a good trade-off and beats out everything else. Being enlisted, it doesn't change very much. All it does is nerfs your long-range damage from 19 to 16. I'll insert the full damage profiles here. But in return, your rate of fire goes from 800 to 923 RPM. Some people see negative damage variants and cringe away, but honestly, a very small fraction of your gunfights will be out at that max range. 7 and 6 shots to kill at that range are both pretty bad, and for that reason, I just avoid those long-range gunfights completely. And if you adapt to that kind of playstyle with this weapon, then the extra fire rate on the Shorty variant is really going to help you out. It's a very noticeable change, and I would definitely recommend it. Now, taking a look at the Hipshot variant in second, it's almost the exact same thing with one extra buff and one extra nerf. The buff is a 10% faster aim down sight time, and the nerf is a 10% increase in recoil. Neither of those things is a very big deal, but I've decided I don't like that extra trade-off and would rather stick with the Shorty, but I suppose it's up to you and if you have one of these in your armory. These are the only two variants that buff your fire rate in that way, all the way up to 923, and I think it's a really good thing to have. But in third, we have a completely different variant on the other side of the spectrum. It is the Pro Pipe and Royalty Elites. This one is definitely up for debate. I'm fully prepared for some people to say it's their favorite variant, while others will insist it's complete trash. Let's take a look though. You do get a very good damage increase, and that's what makes this variant valuable. A very solid 3 to 4 to 5 shot kill. This is the only AMR9 variant, along with the Royalty version of course, that buffs your damage in any way. So this is the only variant that has the potential to one burst kill people at any range with that 5-round burst. Are you going to hit all 5 shots at long range? Probably not, especially because you can't attach a grip on this weapon because there is already an automatically attached grenade launcher taking up the underbarrel slot. Yep, you get a noob tube, hence the name Pro Pipe. It may be blasphemous and sacrilegious for me to ever encourage using the noob tube, but since it's given to you, I will admit it's pretty effective if you actually bother to run danger close on your class, especially when clearing out an objective like a hardpoint or momentum flag. The ability to attach an underbarrel grenade launcher is an interesting and unique feature of this SMG, and it is a common theme for many of the variants to come with grenade launchers. That's not really something I'm looking for, but maybe you are, and that might move some of these variants on the list a little bit up for you. But we were talking about hitting your shots with the Pro Pipe, and we have yet to discuss the major nerf of this weapon. It is a large fire rate decrease from 800 to 631. That may help you hit long-range shots for sure, but at close range, as you'd expect, that is very bad for time to kill and makes this variant kind of tough to use. This is where different people's opinions will come into effect. How do you want to play with the AMR9? If you want to kind of sit back and use it like a bit of a quicker, a light version of an assault rifle, you can fire a couple noob tubes onto objectives and pick people off at medium range. If you're very confident with your aiming abilities to lock on target, this is a great variant for that. The damage buff will help you out, but if you want to be the guy rushing onto the objective and challenging people in tight spaces, you're going to need one of these other two variants, or even the base variant, before I suggest using the Pro Pipe. It's just not good at really close range. Spraying and praying with the Pro Pipe is not going to work all that well. So there are the top 3. We have 2 other variants that I think are alright if you want that free grenade launcher. The Banger and the Noob Tube, as those names would suggest, both give you that attachment for free with minimal penalties. So if you want that attachment, go ahead and use one of those. But past the base weapon, there are quite a few negative variants listed here. Starting off with a weapon I will want to talk about, as it is an elite ranked all the way down here, the Dynamo. If the Dynamo did everything that it says it does on the in-game stat bars, I bet bet this would be a pretty good variant, maybe even ranked up near number 1 with those other variants that buff fire rate. But there's some bad stuff going on here. Allow me to explain. First off, there are tons of bad things. The damage profile is the same as the Shorty with that 16 long range damage, and your long range drop off is nerfed by 15%, so you'll hit that 16 damage even sooner, and you have a 10% recoil increase. So basically, 3 nerfs in a row there that make sure you aren't going to be hitting any targets or killing anyone at long range. But you might think this variant is based around a high fire rate, which would suggest that this is meant for a close range playstyle. This might still be a good variant. But it's when we take a look at the positive sides of this weapon that everything ironically falls apart. You do have a 10% faster aim down sight time, tiny good change there, but the fire rate is the thing we all want to know. The Shorty and Hipshot had a +1 fire rate and went up to 923 RPM, so surely the Dynamo would be higher. Well, no, it is lower. You go from 800 RPM to 821 RPM. Why? I don't know. It seems pretty stupid if you ask me. This is such a tiny buff for all of those downsides. I don't know what frame rounding does to that number, but it can't be that good because it's just such a small change. And that's not the end of it, folks. The Dynamo is the only AMR9 variant to change the burst delay. But surprisingly, not in a good way. It almost doubles the time in between your bursts, going from 5 milliseconds to 9. I get that 4 milliseconds as a difference is pretty small, but this could lead to oversampling the weapon more often and giving this variant a bad feel because you can't spam it as easily, as if it wasn't bad enough already. So after taking in everything I've said about this variant, why would you ever use it? If the +2 fire rate wasn't a lie, and this variant brought you up to maybe 1000 RPM or something, and improved the burst delay to 4 milliseconds instead of 5, or even left that untouched, I would have to do some thinking about ranking this variant. It would probably be either first or third, but with the way it is now, it's just bad, and I might actually know why. I can do a little demonstration here. If I use the Shorty or Hipshot with rapid fire, you can see that it's shooting so quickly that the weapon firing sound effect is terribly matched up with the actual ammo count or how fast I'm actually shooting. It's no secret that the gun sounds aren't really synced up with the actual bullet registration, which is why the AK-12 hair trigger, for example, sounds faster on all consoles, but it only actually shoots faster on certain consoles. And the game achieves this by just not playing gun sound effects at the rate that actually matches your true rate of fire. It's kind of hard to explain because it's a weird concept that they do, but I'm guessing if the Dynamo actually brought you up to around 1000 RPM past that 923 that you get with the other variants, that would cause even more problems with sounds not being in sync. I probably shouldn't be accusing the Sledgehammer team of anything where I'm completely ignorant, but the fact that the Dynamo is so terrible could be as simple as a lazy cover-up because they didn't want to rework how the AMR9 sound effect worked. Not a big deal, I guess, just don't use the Dynamo. So I hope that clears up any misconceptions you may have had about this variant. We've got some other bad variants down here as well. The Featherweight, Paratrooper, Express, and Outlaw I think are all not worth using. I would just opt for the base variant. So you can see, the variants of the AMR9 are really not that impressive. Overall, there's no crazy good standout variant. Even up in first place here, yeah, I think the Shorty is good, and the Pro Pipe is interesting. Some people may like it, other people may hate it. But even if you have none of these variants, using the base weapon isn't going to put you at much of a disadvantage. So I hope that covers all the variants well. Let's take a look at the Camo challenges. Going to be a lot of standard stuff, unfortunately, I'm sure. As an SMG, you start off with hipfire kills, which is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Probably most annoying with this gun as it is burst fire, but it's still an SMG, and stuff like a laser sight and gung ho will of course help with hipfire, and dare I mention it, I'm pretty sure grenade launcher kills would count as hipfire too. Headshots will just happen over time. You can try to focus on them and aim for the head more often, but you really don't need to. If you're focusing on the other Camo challenges, I'm sure you'll do this one without thinking about it. Dogfights are of course what I usually call the hardest challenge here. It will take a lot of timing and a lot of waiting to be presented with the opportunity to even get them. Obviously the easiest way to do this is to get mid-air boost slam headshot kills. Not really, that was a fluke. But the biggest thing you can actually do to increase your chances of creating that opportunity is using that exo hover, and the overcharged perk always pairs well with that. If you're keeping yourself in the air, then all you have to worry about is shooting someone when they jump instead of needing to time your jump perfectly with theirs, which is obviously a lot easier. Next we have 20 double kills, and it's definitely possible to spray people down and get a double kill since they increased the time allowed between kills for something to be considered a double kill. But I think there's an obvious obvious solution to this challenge, you're given the ability to use a noob tube on this SMG, and only this SMG, so you might as well use it for this challenge. If you're playing momentum and using danger close, I don't think it'll be too hard to get double kills by noob tubing the flag. And finally, getting 40 slide kills is pretty fun. Definitely use Gung Ho for this challenge, that's a given. And another thing, you don't need it, but the grenade launcher can even help with this challenge too. I will admit it's not ideal to be so low to the ground when firing it. It's much easier to be in the air and fire it down to make sure it explodes when it hits the ground. But sliding and noob tubing someone is pretty easy and quite satisfying. I'm sorry if saying that makes me a terrible person. And lastly, of course, no perks and no attachments. You guys know the deal with that. Just gotta do them. So there you have it, the AMR9 checked off the list. I'm pretty satisfied with how we covered all the variants. Too bad there weren't any really good ones. Next episode, we'll be taking a look at the EPM3 due to your suggestions. Often mocked as the worst gun ever, but it's been buffed probably more times than any other thing, so it's not that bad anymore. I think it'll be an interesting episode. I hope you've learned some cool stuff about the AMR9, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.